I needed a place fast. My last lease ended suddenly, after my landlord sold the building. I was a broke student, juggling part-time gigs and grad school deadlines. So when I found a Craigslist ad for a cheap room near campus, jumped. The guy renting it out was named Omar. I met him on a rainy Thursday night. He was soft-spoken, probably in his late 20s, with pale skin and sunken eyes that looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His room was locked when he showed me the rest of the apartment. He said, "I work nights. You won't see me much. Just don't go into my room, ever." At the time, I didn't think much of it. I figured he was just private. Lots of people are weird about their space. The rent was ridiculously low, the Wi-Fi worked, and he even had one of those fancy espresso machines. The first few days were quiet. I barely saw him. The apartment had a strange smell, though like old wood and coppery blood, but only near his door. And every night around 3 a.m., I'd hear creaking footsteps, pacing, back and forth, followed by low muttering. I assumed it was Omar getting home from work, but then I started noticing other things. My toothbrush moved a few inches. A spoon I never used appeared in my sink. The fridge light flickered when I opened it and always when I touched Omar's milk. And sometimes I'd wake up with my door open. I never left it open. The scratching started on the 5th night. Light at first, like a cat. A soft scrape on the bottom of my door. Just as I was drifting off. We didn't have a cat. I brushed it off until it became louder, clawing, then thumping, as if something or someone was slamming their body into my door from the hallway. I confronted Omar the next morning, half expecting him to laugh it off. He didn't. He just stared at me with wide, bloodshot eyes and said, "Don't open your door when it's happening, no matter what you hear." Then he walked away and locked himself in his room. I started locking my door every night, double-checking the windows, sleeping with a knife under my pillow. Then came the night I heard my mother's voice outside my door. "Baby, open up. It's Mom, please." I sat frozen, mouth dry, heart pounding. I hadn't spoken to her in over a weekend. She sure as hell wasn't in the apartment. I stayed silent. The voice turned angry. "Open the goddamn door. I know you can hear me." It kept going for 47 minutes. I know, because I timed it. I didn't sleep that night. Just stared at the door, blade in hand, waiting for it to bust open. The next morning, Omar was in the kitchen. He looked like hell, sweat drenched, eyes sunken further, and bandages wrapped around his forearms. He whispered, "It's getting stronger because you're here." I asked him what he meant, what it was. He just said, "I should have never rented out the room. It gets hungry when there's more people." It all came to a head the night the power went out. Around 2:50 a.m., the entire apartment plunged into darkness. I was already wide awake, heart thudding, clutching my flashlight like a lifeline. Then the banging started, not on my door, on Omar's. I heard a guttural moan, not human, wet, like something trying to speak through shredded lungs. The banging intensified. Something on the other side was trying to get out. I ran to the hallway despite every instinct screaming, "Don't." Omar's door was shaking violently, and black liquid was leaking from underneath it, thick and pulsing like it was alive. Then I heard Omar's voice, but it was coming from inside my room. "Help me, please." I turned, flashlight trembling in my hand, and ran back to my door. It was open again. Inside was Omar. But not Omar. This thing. It looked like him, but stretched, wrong, too tall, jaw unhinged. Its eyes were solid black, and its skin shimmered like it had been dipped in oil. It started walking toward me with this jerky, puppet-like movement, repeating over and over, "Let me back in, let me back in, let me back in." I slammed the door and bolted. Ran out of the apartment, barefoot, heart exploding in my chest. The police wouldn't believe a word. They found no one in the apartment. Omar was gone. His room, completely empty. No furniture, no clothes, not even a bed frame. Just deep scratch marks on the walls and a smell that made one of the officers vomit. I moved in with my cousin the next week, but I still hear scratching sometimes, in the walls, in my dreams, and every now and then. I still get texts from Omar's number, just 3 words. Let me in. It started, like most bad decisions, with a lie I told myself. It's just temporary. I'd broken up with my girlfriend of 3 years and needed out of our apartment immediately. My friend Sam told me his old college buddy, Alex, had a spare room in a house not far from downtown. The rent was cheap, utilities split, no lease required. I didn't ask too many questions. I just moved in. Alex was friendly, almost too friendly. The type who always wanted to hang out, even when it was clear I needed space. He asked a lot of personal questions, weird ones too. What's your biggest fear? Do you believe in the soul? Have you ever seen yourself move when your body didn't? At first, I chalked it up to late-night stoner philosophy. He was eccentric, sure, but harmless. The house was older, probably early 1900s. Creaky floors, warped windows, and worst of all, mirrors everywhere. Huge antique mirrors hung in the hallway, above the staircase, and even across from my bed. They were all the same style. Gilded silver frames, some cracked slightly at the corners. I asked Alex about them once, and he just said, they were here when I moved in. The last guy liked reflections. I should have left then, 2 weeks in. The first real incident happened. I was brushing my teeth one night, staring absently into the bathroom mirror, when I noticed something off. My reflection blinked, but I hadn't. I froze, foam dripping from my mouth, staring. It blinked again. Then slowly, deliberately, it smiled. I turned and ran out of the bathroom. Alex was in the living room, watching an old VHS tape of Static. I told him what happened, expecting him to laugh. Instead, he muted the TV and stared at me. You saw it, he whispered. I didn't answer. He stood up, walked over to the mirror in the hallway, and tapped on it gently with a fingernail. Tap, tap, tap. Then he said, sometimes it tries new faces. I thought about leaving that night, but I had nowhere to go. No money. My parents lived across the country. I told myself I was hallucinating. Lack of sleep, stress, depression, anything but what it really was. Then, the noises started. Every night, around 2:33 a.m., I'd hear whispering from the hallway, soft and fast, like overlapping voices speaking backward. Then I'd see shadows pass in the mirrors that didn't exist in real life. Alex stopped coming out of his room altogether. I heard him chanting sometimes, low and rhythmic, and the air in the house felt thick, like walking through warm syrup. One night, I found a dead crow on the kitchen table, its wings spread wide and its eyes gouged out. There was a note next to it, in Alex's handwriting. Do not cover the mirrors. They get angry. It was a Thursday when I finally tried to leave. I packed my bags in the middle of the day and went to say goodbye, but Alex was gone. His room was open for the first time. I hesitated, then stepped inside. That's when I realized his room didn't have a bed, or clothes, or anything that said someone had lived there. Just a chair, a dozen candles burned down to stubs, and mirrors covering all 4 walls. Except, they weren't reflecting me. Each mirror showed a different version of the same room, same floor, same candles, but in each one, the person in the chair was me, a different me. In one, I was pale and bald. In another, my eyes were black sockets. In a third, I was grinning, head tilted unnaturally. Then I saw Alex in one of them. He was behind me. I spun around, nothing. But in the mirror, he was smiling, directly at my reflection. Then, in every mirror at once, All the other versions of me stood up. I ran. I bolted out of the room, grabbed my keys, and didn't even shut the front door. That night, I slept in my car, 2 towns over. But when I checked my phone the next morning, I had a new voicemail. It was a distorted voice, barely recognizable. Just 2 words. Too late. That was 3 weeks ago. I've stayed in 4 different motels. Never more than a night. But every room I stay in, no matter how plain a mirror appears by morning, and I swear, I see him now, behind me, watching, smiling, waiting. It felt too good to be true, and of course, it was. I'd just moved to a new city after landing a publishing internship that paid peanuts. Rent prices were insane, and I was on the verge of sleeping in my car when I found an ad on Craigslist room, available $400 a month. All utilities included. Must be okay with dogs. LGBTQ+ friendly. The place was in a decent neighborhood. The ad had a photo of the living room clean normal. I replied immediately. The guy who answered, Brent, seemed chill. Mid-30s, scruffy beard, flannel shirt type. He worked nights at a warehouse and said I'd basically have the place to myself. The only rule, don't go into the basement. It's sealed off. Old boiler down there is busted and unsafe. Fine. By me. I had no interest in wandering into moldy storage spaces. The first week went smoothly. Brent was polite, if a little stiff. His dog, a huge mutt named Reggie, barked every time someone touched the basement door, which was sealed with a chain lock from the outside. But hey, he warned me. I figured Reggie was just territorial. Then I started noticing weird stuff. Little things at first, like my shampoo going missing and reappearing hours later, or hearing what sounded like footsteps below my room, right beneath the floorboards, slow pacing, but it was impossible. The basement was supposed to be off limits. It was sealed. Brent said it was empty, broken boiler, unsafe, except someone was definitely down there. Asterisk on the 10th night. I stayed up late editing a short story for a writing contest. Around 2 a.m. I heard it again, those same footsteps. Creak, creak, creak. Reggie started growling outside my door. Then I heard something different. A voice, whispering. I leaned toward the vent by the floor. The voice was soft, raspy, and it was saying my name. Tessa, ... Tessa, ... Do you know where you are? I jumped back. I texted Brent immediately, asking if he was home. No response. 5 minutes later, I heard his keys in the door. He walked in, sweaty from work, looking exhausted. I told him what I heard. He barely reacted. Old pipes, he mumbled. This house makes noise. You'll get used to it. But I knew what I heard. Voices don't come from pipes. Voices don't say your name. The next day, I waited for him to leave for work. I had made up my mind. I was going to look in the basement. I waited until I heard his truck pull away. I grabbed a flashlight, unlatched the chain, and pulled open the door. The air that hit me was cold and wet, like someone exhaling from a freezer. I stepped onto the stairs. They were steep and narrow. Every step creaked. The basement was pitch black. My flashlight barely pierced the shadows. I saw an old boiler in the corner, rusted and hissing softly. Then I saw the mattress, stained, thin, on the ground, surrounded by empty water bottles, crumpled ramen packets, and something that looked like a human tooth. I backed up the stairs, heart pounding. But when I turned to go back up, the door was closed, and from the other side, I heard someone slide the chain back into place. Asterisk, I don't remember how long I stayed down there. Hours, maybe longer. I screamed until my throat felt raw. No one answered. Not Brent, not the neighbors, not even Reggie. Eventually, I dozed, off terrified, curled up on the bottom step. When I woke up, the door was open. There was food on the top step, an apple, a protein bar, and a bottle of water. No note, no sign of Brent. I ran out of that basement and locked myself in my room. I packed my things in a panic, stuffing clothes into trash bags. Brent came home around sunset. I confronted him. I screamed in his face, "Who the hell is in the basement?" He blinked, confused, then said something I'll never forget. "That's where I found you." I laughed out of disbelief. I said, "What are you talking about?" He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "When I moved in, the basement was chained shut. You were down there already, starving, filthy. You don't remember?" I froze. My ears rang. My stomach turned. He continued, slowly. "You kept saying someone else had locked you down there. That someone had taken your name, your life. You wouldn't talk after that. You stopped eating. Then one day, you just walked upstairs and acted like nothing happened." I told myself he was lying. I ran. I left everything behind. But ever since then, things don't feel right. I check the mirror too often. I keep seeing someone that looks like me walking in the opposite direction. And last night, I got a letter. No return address. No stamp. Just a piece of paper inside. Scrawled in shaky black ink were 4 words. "Put her back in." I moved into apartment 3B during the first week of January. I'd just ended a 3-year relationship and needed a fresh start. The place wasn't perfect peeling paint, creaky floors, but the location was solid, and the price was unbeatable for the city. The only catch, I had to share it with someone. Her name was Maya. She was already living there when I moved in. Tall, pale, early 30s, with thick black hair that always looked a bit damp, like she'd just stepped out of the shower even when she hadn't. Her eyes were sunken like she hadn't slept in weeks. But she was polite, quiet. The first odd thing was the smell. Not strong, just off. Like wet leaves and old garlic. It came from her room sometimes. I assumed it was incense or something rotting under her bed. I didn't want to be rude. I kept to myself. We had a routine. She never cooked, never used the TV. I barely heard her at all, really, aside from the sound of her pacing back and forth in her room late at night. Constant soft steps from 1 a.m. until around 4. One night I asked, "Do you have insomnia or something?" She looked up from her mug of tea and said, with no expression, "It's not me." Then she walked away. I laughed it off. Thought maybe she was just weird. Then I started waking up with my bedroom door open, and I always closed it. I started noticing things. Subtle, but wrong. The hallway light would flicker only when I passed Maya's door. Her shadow under the door would stretch, at odd angles, even when the light source didn't make sense. One night I heard breathing outside my room, slow and wet, but when I opened the door, nothing was there. Maya got stranger too. Her hair got longer, like noticeably, almost shoulder length 1 week, brushing her lower back the next. She wore the same gray hoodie every day, even though the apartment was sweltering from the radiator. Once when she left, her door cracked. I saw inside, just briefly. Her room was completely bare, except for a chair in the corner, a tall wooden one facing the wall. She didn't sleep in a bed. I never saw one. Later that night, I heard something whispering. At first, I thought it was her talking in her sleep, but when I pressed my ear to her door, it was 2 voices, and hers was saying, "I said I'd feed you. I said I'd keep it quiet." I backed away. I didn't sleep. The next day, I confronted her. "You know what, Maya? I think I'm gonna move out." She nodded slowly, stirred her tea, then said, "That's okay. You're not the first." I started packing that night. I didn't care about losing my deposit. I just wanted out. While I was boxing my books, I found something shoved behind the shelf, an ID card. Not Maya's. A girl named Emma Carlisle. Same address, same apartment. Dated just 5 months ago. I Googled her. The first result was a missing persons case, greater than Emma Carlisle, 28, last seen in October, lived at 335 Granger Street. Apartment 3B. I froze. I knocked on Maya's door. Who the hell is Emma? I asked through the door. No answer. Just silence. Then the pacing began again. But this time, it was in my room. I spun around. Nothing. I checked every corner. Under the bed. In the closet. I turned back to the hallway and saw her door was wide open. I don't remember walking in. I don't remember choosing to. It just happened. The room was cold. So cold my breath fogged up. The chair in the corner was facing me now. Empty. But the wall behind it. There were scratches. Hundreds. Deep grooves in the drywall. Some spelling out words. I can hear her inside me. She doesn't sleep. Please feed it. Behind me, I heard the door close. Maya was standing there. But it wasn't Maya anymore. Her face wasn't right. Too long. Her eyes, black and gleaming. Her mouth opened, but her jaw unhinged. Falling far past her collarbone, from her throat, came a voice I didn't recognize. Your turn. Epilogue. 1 week later, a new ad went up yesterday. Craigslist greater than rooms, and shares greater than $475 month. Room available in peaceful 2-bedroom apartment. LGBTQ plus friendly. Must be okay with dogs. And locked doors. I think I saw Maya's photo in the post. But the name was different this time. Emma, asterisk. I found the listing in a Facebook housing group. Greater than 2 roommates looking for a third. Quiet apartment, close to subway. $600 per month. Room available immediately. After 3 weeks of couch surfing, I jumped at the chance. I toured the apartment. That same night, it was in an older brick building near Crown Heights, Brooklyn. A little dingy, but manageable. The current tenants, Jess and Kyle, were both in their late 20s and seemed normal enough grad student and barista, respectively. They told me the third bedroom had been empty for a while. We've had a few people come and go, Jess said. But it's yours if you want it. I moved in the next day. At first everything was fine. The room was small, but clean. Kyle was friendly and left notes on the fridge like, hey, we're out of eggs, grab some if you can. Jess mostly kept to herself, always wearing big headphones and typing on her laptop at the kitchen table. But it was the third bedroom that bothered me. You see, there were 4 rooms in the apartment. Jess had one, Kyle had the other. I moved into the third, but the fourth, what they called the junk room, was always locked. I assumed it was just storage, or that the landlord used it. But late at night, I'd hear sounds from behind that door. Not just creaks. Breathing. Heavy. Rhythmic. Wet. Almost sometimes, something would scratch at the inside of the door. Soft at first, like a cat's paw, then harder. Desperate. Rapid. I brought it up to Jess once. She paused, then said without looking up from her laptop, it's old pipes. The walls here do weird things. But I'd never heard pipes that whispered my name. Asterisk. One night, about 2 weeks in, I came home late from work. Kyle was in the kitchen, staring at the locked door. You ever notice, he said, without turning to me, how we never actually see Jess sleep? I laughed, nervously. What? He shrugged. She's just always there, right? Headphones on, same chair, same playlist. I don't even know what she's studying. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3:14 a.m., I heard a low click. I opened my door. A crackhand saw Jess standing in front of the 4th room. The junk room. She had a tray in her hands, a bowl, something steaming in it. She unlocked the door, went inside, and shut it behind her. No lights came on. No one spoke. I stood there in the hallway, barefoot and frozen, for 10 minutes when she came back out. Her hands were empty. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and didn't care. She walked straight back to her room and closed the door. I couldn't stop shaking. The next morning, I asked Kyle about it. He looked at me for a long time and finally said, I think something lives in there. I don't know if it was always like this, but every person who's moved into that room, gone, no warning, no goodbye. I stared at him. Then why the hell haven't you left? He looked down at the floor, then whispered, because it doesn't let you. Asterisk. I decided I was leaving. That night, I didn't care about my stuff. I could replace everything. I packed one backpack, took my keys, and tried to slip out the front door. It was chained from the outside. I don't mean locked, I mean chained. Heavy steel, links wrapped around the knob, and nailed into the frame. No way that came from inside. That's when I noticed it. The fourth room was open, pitch black inside, but I could feel something watching. I backed up into the kitchen and ran straight into Kyle. He looked drained, his skin gray, lips dry, like he hadn't eaten in days. She's feeding it again, he mumbled. But I think it's hungry for something else now. Suddenly, Jess was there, too. She stepped out of the shadows like she'd been waiting. Her voice was cold and robotic. It doesn't want leftovers anymore. Then I felt it. Something moving down the hallway. Slow, crawling, wet hands slapping the wood. Floor. I ran, straight to the fire escape. Kicked open the window, glass slicing my shin. Climbed down barefoot into the alley. Sprinting into the night. I stayed with a friend upstate for a month. Blocked their numbers. Burned the backpack I escaped with. Changed my phone. Never went back. But last week, I got a new message request on Facebook. No, mutual friends. Just a photo. It was my old room in 3B, and under the bed. Something was smiling.